Today is the 25th Sunday of Ordinary Time, Cycle B. The Book of Wisdom tells us that a good person will be obnoxious to evildoers. The good person, by the example of his life, will embarrass the evildoers whose ways are sinful. Rather than be ashamed and change their behaviors, they will ridicule and persecute the righteous person. Have this ever happened to you? Instead of receiving praise for your goodness, others become envious and criticize you. The chief priests, the scribes, and the Pharisees became so angry every time Jesus pointed out their flaws, and especially their lack of mercy and compassion, that they plotted to kill Jesus and eventually succeeded. In these times, Christians have to bear the cross of ridicule for our good behavior and continue to do good. We must ask ourselves, how do we react to the success of others? Especially those who do things correctly and honestly. Do we admire or resent them? Do we seek to bring them down? Or do we try to raise them up and to raise ourselves up as well? Today, Christians are being bullied. We uphold God's teaching on the sanctity of life because we believe life, fertility, and motherhood are blessings and not a disease to be cured. One of the primary roles of sex is to produce children. However, our culture glorifies sex as the highest form of romantic love and falsely believes sex is only for pleasure. Therefore, when a pregnancy comes along, it is an accident. We have been given the greatest gift by God to create with Him another human being with a soul. Soap operas and telenovelas portray marriage like a merry-go-round. Almost everyone was married to another character in the show, and therefore promotes the notion that one should not strive for a long-term relationship. Casual sex outside of marriage appear to be a regular part of movies and TV shows. Some even promote the idea that the male hero is entitled to many beautiful women. For example, James Bond always have to have a new girl. If our sons and daughters are not sexually active by 16 years old and are virgins, our society treats them like dysfunctional teenagers who have unhealthy interpersonal behavior. Movies about high school graduation and college life glorify sinful behaviors such as drunkenness, drug abuse, premarital sex, ignore the spiritual and psychological problems that come later, such as breakups, abandonment, pregnancy, and infidelity. Today, very, very few teenage sexual relationships result in marriage. Reality shows portrays the worst of the human nature: swearing, cheating, lying, greed, and selfishness, while few shows teach and promote Christian values such as honesty, chastity, responsibility, humility, honesty, compassion, forgiveness. The F word was normally heard only on cable comedy. But now it is acceptable on talk shows and even award shows. The zygote, a fertilized egg, has all the DNA of an adult human being. After fertilization, all that is required is nutrition and growth. A 2-inch sapling, that's a baby tree, of a redwood tree, which can grow up to 200 feet, is still a redwood tree. After the angel Gabriel told Mary she was pregnant with Jesus, she visited her cousin Elizabeth within 3 days. And John the Baptist in the womb of Elizabeth leapt for joy, recognizing the 3-day-old person in the womb of Mary, Jesus. When does a conceived child receive an immortal soul? Logically, souls do not grow and is put there instantaneously by God at conception. This is why the church believes that life begins at conception. The willful destruction of innocent life is a mortal sin punishable by eternal damnation. We know that many young people have been deceived into believing that abortion was just a minor surgical procedure. Many cannot accept the horror of having killed a child and therefore cannot accept changes in the law. To them I say, be humble, ask forgiveness from God, who is merciful, and you will be forgiven, and the issue will be settled. You do not want to stand before God on Judgment Day with this matter unsettled. Can you take that out? You do not want to stand before God on Judgment Day with this matter unsettled. St. James tells us where jealousy and selfishness, St. James tells us where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there is disorder and every foul practice. Our human desires for power, prestige, and honor are difficult to overcome when our culture glorifies these things. But wisdom from above is first of all pure, then peaceable, gentle, compliant, full of mercy and good fruits, without inconstancy and insincerity. We need to pray for wisdom more than for power, prestige, and honor. His apostles were still thinking about the Messiah as a mighty, powerful king who would defeat the Romans and their roles as the nobility in this new era. Jesus teaches apostles and us that discipleship is not about power, glory, and fame. It's about service to others, and if necessary, giving up our lives for others. In Jesus' time, socially, a child had no status, no right, and was totally dependent on adults for everything and had to be obedient. The child is a symbol of all those who are powerless, disenfranchised, in need, and on the margins of society. Rather than showing our power over the weak, Christ tells us to empower them, welcome them, embrace them, and tend to their needs. To ensure that this happens, we need to place Christ at the head of our ministries. We need to make Christ the head of our homes. We have to live according to the truths of the gospel, regardless of the consequences, ridicule, insults, threats, or economic loss. Stand up for what is true and just. Speak up loudly. Do not be afraid.